Ria, respond if you can hear me. Abdul Rafi, are you there? Abdul Rafi.
Present.
Okay, okay. क्लास यार ही नहीं हुई है तक है।
सर सीआर आज बिजी है, आज लेक्चर नहीं अटेंड करेगा वो।
ठीक है, ठीक है, ओके। तो अब्दुल राफी बताएं, स्क्रीन नजर आ रही है आपको? कैन यू सी द स्क्रीन? ओके, एंड कैन यू सी द स्लाइड्स आल्सो?
Yes, sir.
ओके, गुड। Okay, I'm going to start the lecture, and before starting, I would like to start recording. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, dear students, last time we were studying that the simple bending theory or the flexure formula is only applicable if the moment they are acting about the principal axis or the load they are acting parallel to the principal axis or passing through the principal axis. So if the load they are not passing through the principal axis or acting parallel to the principal axis, then the moment will not be produced about principal axis. So in that case, the bending will not be symmetrical or uniaxial, and beam will deflect or bend about both axes, about x and y axis. So then I told you that how we can resolve this problem. So actually unsymmetrical bending may occur in symmetrical section and also unsymmetrical section. So how we can resolve the problem if we are dealing with symmetrical section? So in symmetrical section, the unsymmetrical bending or biaxial bending may occur if the load they are not passing through or acting parallel to principal axis. Thus, they will not produce the moment about principal axis. So in symmetrical section, we are using the principle of superposition. And principle of superposition means that, for example, if we are having a cantilever beam and cantilever beam is subjected to load from the bottom side and it is acting in upward direction. So I have taken a section maybe at the end. So you can see that in this symmetrical section, the centroidal axis we are having, and this centroidal axis they will also be the principal axis, because we have already discussed that if the axis of symmetry pass through the centroid, then this centroidal axis will also be the principal axis. So this is a doubly symmetric section. So both centroidal axis they will be the principal axis. Okay, here in this case we supposed to deal with unsymmetrical bending, because this load is acting at certain inclination from principal axis. So this load is not acting along or parallel to either of the principal axis. So it is rather acting at certain inclination from both principal axis. So let's suppose we are given the inclination of the load with from the y principal axis or the y centroidal axis, which is axis of symmetry. and theta is the inclination of load with reference to principal axis. So we can we can solve this problem by two methods, either discussing the problem in terms of load or in terms of moment. So in terms of the load, how we can resolve this problem? So we can resolve this load into two components, and each of the component is acting along one of the principal axis. So if the load is acting at certain inclination, so the component of the load which is acting along y principal axis will be regarded as a py, and that will be the cos function of p load. Why? Because the angle is given from y axis. So the component along y principal axis will be the cos function of load P. Similarly, if we are resolving or we want to determine the component of this load along x principal axis, so this component will be regarded as a px, and that will be the sine function of load P. So here we are resolving this load into two components, and each of the load now it is acting along axis of symmetry or along principal axis. It means that now the loads are acting parallel to or passing through the principal axis. Now they will produce the symmetrical bending, or now the Flexure formula can be used to compute bending stress. Because Flexure formula is only applicable if the load they are passing through the principal axis or acting parallel to the principal axis. So the load which is acting in y direction, it will produce the moment about x-axis. And similarly, the load which is acting in x direction, it will produce the moment about y principal axis. So moment always produced about the axis which is perpendicular to the load. So this was the splitting of the load into components. So you can also use another method. So instead of using the load concept, you can use the moment concept. So let's suppose this is the line or the plane along which a load is acting. So if the load is acting along this plane, so it will produce a resultant moment about an axis which is perpendicular to the loading plane or loading axis. So moment and produced by this load, moment multiplied by maybe length of the beam, because in case of cantilever beam, the load acting at free end, moment at the fixed chord or at any point will be equal to P multiplied by length. So moment produced by this load about this axis will be M. So we can say that load is moment. This moment is produced about this axis, which is perpendicular to load, is having magnitude M. So whatever is this angle will be equal to this one, because this angle between this axis and this axis is 90 degree, and also between x-axis and y-axis is the 90 degree. So this angle will be 90 minus theta, and this theta will be 90 minus theta. So this angle will be also theta. Okay, now if the load is acting upward, so we will have the movement direction like this way, or movement vector is acting in this direction. So I will explain after a short while that how we can perceive the direction of the movement vector. So we know the axis about which the movement is acting, but what will be the movement direction of the movement vector? Rather, it will be upward or downward. That can be perceived by right hand rule. Okay, anyhow, if we are having this moment, so we can resolve this moment into two components, and each of the components must be acting about one of the principal axis. And this moment, resultant moment, which is produced by this load, this moment is not acting about any one of the principal axis, so it will produce biaxial or unsymmetrical bending. So we can resolve this moment into two components. One component must be acting along the x principal axis, that will be regarded as a mx, and that will be the cos function of this moment because angle is given from x-axis. Similarly, the vertical component of this moment, which is acting along y principal axis, will be regarded as a my, and that will be the sine function of this moment. So that diagrams or free body diagrams are inconsistent with this, because if the load is acting along y direction, they produce the moment about x-axis. And similarly, if the load they're acting along x direction or about along x principal axis, they produce the moment about y principal axis. So there is another way to represent this moment vector that is a more convenient way. Normally, we do not show this moment by clockwise or counterclockwise. So we rather show the moment by double-headed vector. So gentlemen, please wait for a while. Some important call. So, can you hear me, Rohan? Rohan, can you hear? Please respond so that I may continue the lecture.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
sir.
Okay. Please mute your mic now, please. Okay. So I was saying that so we can also represent the movement by double-headed vector. Why? Because we are using single-headed vector for the load. So the same load diagram, it can be represented in terms of moment vector. So actually in this moment diagram, it is difficult to show the direction of the moment. So it is convenient to show the moment by double-headed vector. So actually we know the axis about which the moment is acting, because moment is always acting about the axis which is perpendicular to the load. But the next question arises that how we can perceive the direction of the moment vector. it might be acting downward, while it is acting upward. So this direction can be perceived by using right hand rule. So what is right hand rule? So in right hand rule, if you are using your right hand and you are watching your back side of the right hand, so actually if in your right hand your finger, they are representing the compression, and the bottom part of your hand or the wrist portion is represent the tension. So if you are placing your right hand in the direction of the compression and the wrist direction in the tension side, then your thumb direction is the direction of movement vector. Actually, how we can perceive that which part is subjected to tension and which part is subjected to compression? So that is actually depending upon the beam, whether the beam is a cantilever beam or simply supported beam, and what type of the loading against this beam is subjected to. So in case of the cantilever beam, if the load is acting from the bottom side, so the tension will be on the bottom surface, and compression is on the opposite to the load side. So it means that opposite to the load, we will have compression. Just presume that you are having cantilever beam and load is acting from bottom. So it will deflect in upward direction. So the bottom side is in tension and above side is in compression. And then place your right hand in such a way that your fingers are curling in the compression side. So your wrist is on the tension side, so thumb is in this direction. So the movement vector must be acting in this direction. So if you are resolving this movement into two components, so now you don't need to be careful about the this direction of this movement vector, because if this moment is acting in the second quadrant, so its horizontal component is also acting in the x direction and in this direction away from this origin. So this moment m will be regarded as mx, and that will be the cos function of this resultant moment. And similarly, the component of this moment which is acting along y principal axis will be regarded as a my, and that will be the sine function of this moment, because angle is given from x-axis. So here you can see that again, if you are placing your thumb in the direction of the movement, right hand thumb of your right hand in the direction of the movement vector, so it means that above this portion will be in compression and bottom portion will be in tension. So let me clear. In case of simple bending, when we are splitting up the uh, moment into two components and each of the component is acting about one of the principal axis, the axis about which the moment is acting will become the neutral axis. It means that if the moment is acting about x-axis, then x-axis is the neutral axis. So top side of neutral axis will be in compression and bottom side will be in tension. And that is inconsistent with this diagram, because if the load is acting upward direction, so tension will be on the bottom part and top side of the neutral axis will be in compression. And similarly, if you want to place your thumb of your right hand in the direction of the movement, so this side must be in compression and the left side must be in tension. So what we have done, we have split up the moment into two components, or the load into two components, and each of the load is acting along the principal axis, or each of the moment is acting about the principal axis. Now the Flecher formula is applicable, and you already know that if the moment they are acting about x-axis, so they are distributing the stresses along y-axis. And similarly, if the moment is acting about y-axis, now the stress will be distributed along x-axis, and neutral axis will be this one. So here I have given the sign convention So from here, so all fiber above the neutral axis will be subjected to compression, and all fiber below the neutral axis will be subjected to tension in this case, just like I have shown, due to moment acting about x principal axis. Similarly, due to the moment acting about y-axis, all fiber on the right side of neutral axis will be subjected to compression, and all fibers on the left side are subjected to tension by right hand rule, because the load is acting from this side, so the loading side will be in tension, and opposite the load we will have compression. So I have shown this sign convention here. Then what we will do, we will distribute the stress distribution due to mx moment along y surface. So I have shown this sigma z. Sigma z means that the stress they are acting toward the longitudinal axis or perpendicular to cross section. So if the moment is acting about x-axis, x-axis will become the neutral axis. So all fiber above the neutral axis will be in compression, and maximum compression will be at the top fiber. And all fiber below the neutral axis will be subjected to tension, and the tension will be maximum at extreme fiber. Similarly, if the moment is acting about y-axis, then y-axis will become neutral axis. So just assume that you have rotated this section. So if the moment is acting about y-axis, stress will be distributed along x-axis. So flexure stress is due to my, they will be maximum compressive along this surface and maximum tensile along this left surface. So this is the stress distribution due to the moment my, and this is the stress distribution due to the moment mx. So if you want to determine the resultant stress at this corner, so you can sum up the stress acting at this corner with the stress acting at this corner due to my. So summation of the stress at this corner and at this corner will give you this value, assuming that the tensile stresses in this case are more than this compressive. Similarly, here we are having tensile stresses due to moment mx and also tensile stresses at this corner due to my. So the stress component they will be added up. So sigma z. So actually this will be this stress component on this point. So here, this is this stress component at this corner. So similarly, if you are adding up these stresses acting at all points, so this stress component which is compressive in nature, and this stress is positive, so net stress will be less. So the combined stress distribution that we are computing by the principle of superposition can be computed or is plotted here. Okay, now here at this point the stresses are 0. Similarly, at this bottom part the stresses are 0. If you are joining these 2 points, so you are having a line or an axis along which the stress will be 0, so that is regarded as neutral axis. So next is how we can determine this axis orientation of neutral axis or not. So we can determine orientation of neutral axis mathematically. So again we are considering the same diagram. Due to this load, we are assuming that movement is acting in second quadrant and from this origin in positive direction you can say. So and it is having theta inclination from x principal axis. So assume that the moment is acting, it is shown over here, but you can extend the moment along its line of action. So you know the principle of transmissibility. By the principle of transmissibility, or a moment or a vector can be slided or move along its line of action without changing the effect of without changing its effect on the body. So this is the principle of superposition, where we are determining the total stress uh, which is computed due to the stress induced by the movement my, and also the stress due to the movement mx. So we know that summation of the stress will be the stress computed by this factor plus summation of this factor. So we know one condition about the neutral axis, the stress must be equal to 0. So in this equation that we have already derived this, so if we are substituting the stress value equal to 0, it means that stress will be 0 along neutral axis. Then we can determine the inclination or orientation of neutral axis. So by equating the sigma z equal to 0, we can bring one parameter to the other side, that will become negative my over iy into x equal to minus mx over ix into y. So you can bring the y over x on the one side. So you can see that y over x can bring on the one side. So this, when it will go, that will become my over mx into ix over iy, and mx is equal to m cos theta, because if the moment is acting in this direction, so mx will be m cos theta and my is m sin theta. So if we substitute the value of mx and my here, so m will be cancelled out, and we shall have this equation y over x minus ix over iy, and sin theta over cos theta is equal to tangent theta. Okay, here actually y over x, these are the quadrant or the coordinate of neutral axis. So actually, if we are having neutral axis, if you are having any point, for example, I have picked this point. So the coordinate of any point with reference to x-axis and y-axis are x and y. The ratio of this y over x will be constant at any point. For example, if you are picking this point, then this y over this x will be constant, and that is equal to this tangent beta. So tangent beta is equal to vertical over base. We are assuming that y and x are the coordinate of any point lying on the neutral axis. So y over x is replaced by the tangent beta. So here tangent beta is equal to minus ix over iy into tangent theta. So if we want to determine the orientation of neutral axis, which is represented as a beta here, so beta is the orientation of neutral axis, and that is equal to minus tangent inverse into ix over iy into tangent theta. So we can use this equation number 8 to determine the orientation of neutral axis. Actually here, this theta is the inclination of movement vector, or you can say that load vector. So this theta is the inclination of movement vector from x-axis, because we are assuming from x-axis. And ix and iy are the moment of inertia, the second moment of areas of the cross section. So it means that inclination of neutral axis is the function of inclination of the load. This theta is the inclination of the load or moment vector and second moment of inertia. So inclination of neutral axis beta and the load theta, they will be from the same axis. So if you don't want to get confused with this negative sign, because this negative sign indicates that angle is in clockwise direction. So if the sign is positive, the angle will be counterclockwise. So theta and beta will be from same axis. It means that if the theta is given from x-axis, then beta will also be from the x-axis in the same direction. So this theta and this theta will be same. So if theta is given from here, then beta will also be from the here in clockwise direction. Or you can say that this equation gives the beta value from positive x-axis, and negative and positive sign indicate that whether the angle will be in clockwise side from the positive x-axis or in counterclockwise direction. So here, if Ix, moment of inertia about x-axis, is more than the moment of inertia about y-axis, then beta value will always be more than theta value. Just like here, you can see beta is more than theta value. Inclination of neutral axis is more than inclination of load. And if Ix is less than Iy, then beta will be less than theta value. And if we are having circular cross section or rectangular cross section, then in that case Ix Iy will be equal. So beta will be equal to theta value or inclination of load. So beta is only equal to theta value if the moment of inertia about x-axis and y-axis, they are same. So negative sign indicates that angle is in clockwise direction. Neutral axis always lies between couple vector m and resultant moment. Couple vector m means resultant moment, and principal axis corresponding to I minimum. Okay, what does it mean? Actually, he says that neutral axis will always be between moment vector and between the axis, principal axis about which the moment of inertia is minimum. So in this case, moment of inertia is minimum about y-axis. So y-axis is the minor axis. So beta will be, or neutral axis will be between moment vector and this y. So if we are having a section where the principal, the moment of inertia is minimum about x-axis, mean we are having lesser depth and more width, then beta will be somewhere here, because Ix will be less than Iy. So we can also determine the inclination of the neutral axis from deflection concept also. Or in other words, we can also determine the deflection in being subjected to load which is not acting along the principal axis. The deflection of symmetrical and unsymmetrical members in the direction of the principal axis may always be determined by application of standard deflection formulae. So actually, if we are dealing with the cantilever case, in case of cantilever beam, the maximum deflection at free end can be determined by formula PLQ over 3EI. So in that case, a load which is acting, actually you can say that in y direction, it will produce the deflection in y direction. And actually, when the load is acting in y direction, so it is producing the movement about x direction or x axis. So it means that if the movement is acting about x axis, then the corresponding geometric resistance will be Ix. So if the load is acting along y direction, then the resisting moment of inertia will be Ix. Similarly, if the load is acting in x direction, it will cause the deflection in x direction, and corresponding geometric resistance will be moment of inertia about y axis. So the deflection at three ends of cantilever beam carrying an end point load is PL cube over 3EI, and with appropriate value of I value in moment of inertia, the correct component of load perpendicular to the principal axis is used to determine the deflection. Let me change to the MOI. So let's suppose we are assuming that if the load is acting in x direction, produce deflection in x direction. So this deflection can be computed by formula Px L cube over 3EI. So if the load is acting in x direction, then movement will be produced about y axis. So the corresponding geometric resistance for the moment of inertia will be Iy. Similarly, deflection in y direction is the function of the load in y direction, and corresponding geometric resistance will be Ix. We can sketch this deflection in terms of moment vector, in terms of the vector. Delta x will be in x direction, delta y in y direction. Maximum or the resultant deflection can be determined by the Pythagoras theorem by using this formula. And if you want to determine the inclination of resultant deflection, maybe I am determining here from y axis, then we are having this right angle triangle. In this right angle triangle, delta y is the base, and this value is the perpendicular or vertical, which is equal to delta x. So this tangent beta is the inclination of this. You can say that this deflection angle, which is also actually the inclination of neutral axis, that is equal to delta x over delta y. If you substitute the value of delta x, which is pxl cube over 3I, divided by delta y, which is pyl cube over 3ei. So after simplification, 3ei will be cancelled out. We will have the formula delta x over delta y is equal to px over py into ix over iy, and delta x over delta y is equal to, and px is equal to p cos theta, sorry, p sin theta, and py is equal to p cos theta, just from here. So py p cos theta and px is equal to p sin theta. So after simplification, p will be cancelled out. So sin theta over cos theta is equal to tan theta, which means that we are having exactly the same formula that we have derived from the stress concept. This means that inclination of neutral axis can also be determined with the help of deflection. So actually, this is not the inclination of neutral axis. Actually, this will be same angle as of inclination of neutral axis. Actually, the resultant deflection always produce about the perpendicular to the principal axis. So it means that if I want to show the deflection, so I need to copy some vectors now. So here, so this is the direction of the resultant deflection. So resultant deflection is always perpendicular to neutral axis. So resultant deflection will always be perpendicular to neutral axis. So whatever is this angle will be same as of this angle or this angle, which is equal to beta. So resultant deflection is always perpendicular to the neutral axis. So this beta and this beta will be same. So I will further elaborate when we are solving certain numerical. So I will stop here. So in our next lecture, because the time is short, so I will be unable to start this problem. So in the next lecture, we will start solving this numerical. So in the meantime, if someone is having any question, he can raise the hand and ask me the question. So you can ask the question by raising the hand. Okay, first of all, raise the hand if you are present. All the students who are present, please raise the hand. So Abdul Rafi, Ehsan Jatt, Anis Hamid, Aniza Hamid, I guess. Danish Aslam.
Yes, sir.
Please raise the hand. I have asked to raise the hand if you are present. Okay.
Sir, there was an issue of hand raise actually.
Okay, no problem. So Abdul Rafi, Ehsan Jatt, Danish Aslam, Hassan Subhan. So these 4 students, they are absent. So I will capture the picture. So 3 students only. Okay, somebody has maybe. ठीक है पुत्र. Okay, please unraise the hand. Unraise. Remove the raise in hand option.
Excuse me, sir.
All students, please unraise the hand. Okay. Now, if some student is having question, only that student will raise the hand. So Danish Aslam, you have some question? Yes, 205. 205, what is your question?
Yes, sir, I'm clear with lecture, but can you please add in things?
Actually, I'm unable to hear you properly. There is interruption. So could you repeat and speak slowly?
Yes, sir. Like I'm clear with lecture. I have no issue with that. Can you please add me in Teams? I'm still not ready.
Okay, please send me your text message, okay, on MS Teams. I'm unable to hear you, okay. What is your issue? Inshallah, it will be resolved. Okay, now I'm going to ask the question to the one of the student and who is the lucky guy.